Ever had that moment where you see something you desperately want, knowing full well you'll never truly have it? But you can't stop yourself from imagining what life would be like if, somehow, miraculously, the universe bent in your favor? That's exactly where Vancouver Canucks fans find themselves right now, staring longingly at SIDNEY CROSBY, while reality prepares to crush their dreams like a Tom Wilson hit in open ice. What's going on, Canucks Nation? Today, we're addressing the elephant in the room, or more accurately, the generational talent in Pittsburgh that Vancouver fans are convinced could, somehow, someway, end up wearing the blue and green. Spoiler alert, it's not happening. But let's talk about why this fantasy has captured imaginations across British Columbia, and more importantly, why it's time to let it go. To understand why Canucks fans are grasping at the Crosby straw, you need to appreciate just how dire Vancouver's center ice situation has become. This isn't mild concern. This is full-blown organizational crisis mode. The search for a legitimate center to complement Elias Pettersson has dominated conversations for months. Every option explored has been either unavailable, unaffordable, or underwhelming. And just when things couldn't get worse, Chytil, a player the Canucks were reportedly targeting, took a devastating blindside hit from Tom Wilson that left him being helped off the ice with what appears to be yet another concussion in a troubling history of head injuries. Suddenly, Vancouver's already thin center depth looks catastrophic. In their recent 5-1 loss to Pittsburgh, the Canucks rolled out Pettersson, Max Sasson-Atarady, and the recently recalled Nils Åman down the middle. That's not a playoff contender's center ice depth chart. That's a desperate scramble to fill roster spots with whoever's available. Teddy Blueger, their reliable veteran pivot, is dealing with a knee issue and has managed just 2 games this season. Meanwhile, Pettersson himself, despite showing improved defensive awareness and better decision-making, has managed only 1 goal through 7 games with a meager 10 shots on net. This is the context that breeds desperation. And desperation, my friends, breeds delusion. Which brings us to SIDNEY CROSBY, the Crosby that exists only in dreams. On paper, the fantasy makes sense. Crosby is 38 years old, but playing like he's a decade younger, with 8 points through his first 7 games this season. His cap-friendly $8.7 million annual salary expires after next season, making him theoretically affordable for a team looking to make a championship push. He has a no-movement clause, meaning he controls his destiny completely. And then there's the Vancouver connection, that iconic golden goal 15 years ago that still resonates in Canadian hockey consciousness. The memory of Crosby delivering Olympic gold on home ice in Vancouver creates this nostalgic pull, this sense that somehow the stars could align for reunion of sorts. It's a powerful narrative, a story that writes itself, the prodigal son returning to the scene of one of his greatest triumphs. But here's the uncomfortable truth that Canucks fans need to hear. SIDNEY CROSBY is not coming to Vancouver. Not now. Not ever. And it has nothing to do with Vancouver as a city or the Canucks as an organization. Understanding Sid the Kid means understanding Sid the creature of habit, a Pittsburgh source who's witnessed every facet of Crosby's career, from player to person to city institution, provided crucial insight that should end all speculation immediately. I really don't see much substance to the Sid stuff, the source explained, not because it wouldn't make sense, but because he is so resistant to change. All those habits he has with walking into the building the same way, and his stick-handling routine on the McDonald's logo are OCD to some level. So changing teams would disrupt all of that. Let that sink in for a moment. We're not talking about a player who's casually comfortable in Pittsburgh. We're talking about someone whose entire professional existence is built on routine, consistency, and familiarity. Crosby's pregame rituals, his practice habits, his daily patterns, they're all meticulously constructed and maintained. For a player like that, changing teams isn't just a roster transaction. It's psychological upheaval. It's disrupting every carefully cultivated routine that's helped him maintain elite performance into his late 30s. It's starting over in ways that go far beyond learning a new system or building chemistry with new line mates. But even if Crosby were open to change, which all evidence suggests he's not, there's a massive business consideration that makes a trade virtually impossible. Fenway Sports Group, the current owners of the Penguins, are reportedly exploring selling the franchise. And here's the brutal economic reality: trading away Sidney Crosby would absolutely crater the franchise's sale price. You don't sell a team after shipping out the biggest star in hockey, the face of the organization, the player who single-handedly drives ticket sales and maintains fan interest even during down years. Any prospective ownership group looking at the Penguins wants Crosby as part of the package. He's not just a player. He's the marketing centerpiece, the connection to championship history, the reason casual fans still show up when the team isn't competitive. Remove him, and you're selling a significantly less valuable product. The source put it bluntly: the new owners probably don't want to take on a team without the game's biggest star to sell tickets. That's not speculation. That's business reality. And it makes a Crosby trade virtually impossible from an ownership perspective, regardless of what the hockey operations department might theoretically consider. What makes Crosby's situation even more unique is who he is off the ice. This isn't just about hockey excellence. It's about a person who's become woven into the fabric of Pittsburgh in ways that transcend sports. Drew O'Connor, now with the Canucks, shared a revealing anecdote about his time playing alongside Crosby. That was one of the most noticeable things when I got there in my first year, O'Connor recalled. He brought me some homemade spaghetti and meatballs on one of my first days because I was in a hotel, and he's always making banana bread for the guys. Read that again. Sidney Crosby, one of the greatest players in NHL history, a generational talent with 3 Stanley Cups and 2 Olympic gold medals, is making homemade meals for rookie teammates and baking banana bread for the locker room. That's not the behavior of someone looking for a change of scenery. That's someone who's completely comfortable, who's found his place, who's built a life that extends far beyond what happens during games. Crosby's impact in Pittsburgh goes beyond statistics and championships. He's a community pillar, a charitable force, someone who gives constantly without expecting anything in return. Does that sound like a player who's itching to uproot everything and start over somewhere new? Some speculation has centered on Montreal as a potential destination, given Crosby's well-documented love for the Canadiens. His father, Troy, was drafted by Montreal in 1984 as a QMJHL goalie, though he never played in the NHL. There's a fervent Habs fan base in Crosby's home province of Nova Scotia. The nostalgia factor is undeniable. But nostalgia doesn't win championships, and it certainly doesn't override the practical realities of Crosby's situation. Yes, Montreal has an exciting young core. Yes, they're trending in the right direction. But they're still years away from legitimate contention, and Crosby doesn't have years to wait. If Crosby were to consider leaving Pittsburgh, it would be for an immediate championship opportunity with a team that's one piece away from getting over the top. Montreal doesn't fit that profile. Neither does Vancouver, for that matter. Here's another factor that's being overlooked. The Penguins are actually playing well. They started the season 5-2-0, and the league's oldest team is experiencing something of a renaissance. Will it last? Who knows? But Crosby seems more content, more engaged, more optimistic about this group than he has in recent years. Last season, Pittsburgh was below .500 and missed the playoffs by a dozen points. That's the kind of situation that might prompt a superstar to consider his options. But this season feels different. There's energy, there's competitiveness, there's reason for hope. Why would Crosby bail on that, especially given everything we know about his resistance to change and his comfort in Pittsburgh? So, here's what Canucks fans need to accept. Sidney Crosby is not the answer to Vancouver's center ice problems. Not because he wouldn't help, of course he would. Not because Vancouver isn't a great city or organization, it absolutely is. But because Crosby is exactly where he wants to be, doing exactly what he wants to do, surrounded by the routines and relationships that have defined his entire adult life. The source summed it up perfectly. Things could always go very wrong and he could change his mind, but he's just so set in his ways here. I don't see him wanting to leave. That's not leaving the door open. That's politely closing it while acknowledging that technically anything is possible. But in reality, this isn't happening. Instead of fantasizing about unattainable superstars, the Canucks need to focus on realistic solutions to their center ice crisis. That might mean overpaying for a rental at the trade deadline. It might mean promoting from within and hoping someone steps up. It might mean adjusting the system to maximize what they have rather than pining for what they'll never get. Greatness commands hope, even when that hope is irrational. We understand why Canucks fans want to believe. But belief without basis in reality isn't hope, it's delusion. And it's time to let this particular delusion go. SIDNEY Crosby will retire as a Pittsburgh Penguin. He'll have his number hanging in the rafters. He'll be remembered as the greatest player in franchise history, the face of a dynasty, the hometown hero who never left. That's his story, and Vancouver isn't going to be a chapter in it. The sooner Canucks fans accept that reality, the sooner they can focus on actual solutions to their very real problems. Because while they're busy dreaming about Crosby, the season is slipping away, and the center ice crisis isn't solving itself. All right, I know some of you are going to push back hard on this take, and I want to hear it. Am I being too pessimistic about Vancouver's chances of landing Crosby? Or is this exactly the reality Czech Canucks fans need? What would you do to solve Vancouver's center ice problem if Crosby is off the table? Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is far from over, even if Crosby's potential availability is. And if this breakdown helped clarify why this trade fantasy needs to die, show some love with a like, and let's keep having these honest conversations about what's realistic versus what's wishful thinking. See you in the next one. Does this capture the emotional weight and the harsh reality check you were looking for regarding the Crosby speculation?